Because I was invited to come and to contribute to the session that included consideration of terrorism. And the reason I dare say I was invited is because since 1998 I've been involved in prosecuting cases at the Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And I've also been involved in the legal aspect of many other conflicts which include elements of terrorism within them. I was able to make a contribution, although to my surprise, in light of what's called the Brexit vote of England to leave the European Union, I thought it was quite important to draw on that recent and terrible experience some lessons for the audience, and I think those lessons may have been appreciated. First, by the dissemination of and discussion of really difficult ideas, which is, I think, what this forum is really all about. And I was very struck, I'm sure we all were, by the way different experiences generate entirely different or very different ideas, and you have to bring them together into some kind of consensus, because as one of the speakers said, there's no point in having a policy for terrorism in Africa that's radically different from the policy for terrorism in Europe or America or anywhere else. I think that was followed up by an account of how many different definitions of terrorism there are, but never mind about that. I think the concept's a good one. I didn't get the message across because for want of time, and I spoke about what I wanted to speak about. But it seems to me that viewing terrorism and other acts of violence, and there are two things that are important. First, these things tend to happen when one side of an argument simply doesn't understand the other side. They may be encouraged, led, persuaded, forced not to understand the other side, but they don't understand the other side. And they can then start dehumanizing the other side, and that makes terrorism and indeed mass violence of various kinds possible. And therefore, deriving from that what lesson you can, I think the most important lesson is that the ordinary citizen, you and me, not our political leaders, who genuinely do not want conflict, do not want to go to war, do not want to be led into becoming terrorists, do not want to lead people into becoming fighters or terrorists. What we all need is knowledge. And increasingly, I think, the right of the citizen to know, genuinely to know, not to be deceived, to know. The Christian needs to know more about the realities of Islam and vice versa. And they would find it all much less frightening and threatening if they did. And the citizens' increased knowledge should enable them, maybe, through democratic process, to ensure that their leaders also work through knowledge and not through the more limited desires of leading people into battle, which is, of course, what we've seen on a very parochial, limited, local basis in the Brexit vote. Yet, as I explained in my small contribution to the discussion today, the language of the Brexit vote has already led to one death, completely unnecessarily, of somebody who was killed by a person who almost inevitably had been encouraged in his lunacy by the language that was being spoken by others in order to divide people into tribal groups. So, knowledge and the right to know. It was a nice idea to change the world. I think that we have to recognize that people with firm and embedded views are unlikely to change at the first encounter. But what the first encounter can do is sometimes prise open the door a little bit.